Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Intuition Activation Podcast. I'm your host, Jessica, a spiritual medium and intuitive coach, and I'm so excited that you're here to join me for this intuitive development journey. Hello, you guys. I am so excited to be back here for a solo episode. I feel like it has been a really long time since I have hopped on the mic, just me here, not doing an energy roadmap, but just me sharing a topic with you guys. And you know what? This episode almost didn't happen. I apologize. There was no episode that came out last week. It has been really hectic around here. My babysitter has been out of town and it's been the Jewish high holidays. And I almost got to a point where I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to even record this episode this week, but I couldn't leave you guys hanging. I knew that you needed a little infusion of some intuitive and spiritual encouragement. And I have a really interesting episode for you guys. And so I'm excited to share it. One of the things that I have really been diving very deep into, as many of you know, if you've been listening for the past few episodes or past few months, if you will, is I've been diving very deep into sort of the teachings of Kabbalah. And I have been trying to apply many of these principles to my own life. And in having some conversations with some friends over the past few weeks, I'm realizing that there are some strategies and some tips that I've been applying to my own life that have really been, not only helpful for me, but they've put a lot of things into different perspective for me. And I'm noticing that there's a bit of a trend that's going on for a lot of people right now. And I think it probably has to do with sort of this Libra energy, this idea of renewal, this idea of starting afresh and starting anew. And there's this thing that seems to happen when we make a declaration of, I want to show up in a different way. I want to call something new in, a new version of myself. I want to achieve this goal. It almost feels like we make that statement and even we start working toward that statement, that goal, that version of ourselves that we're trying to become. And it feels like all of a sudden the rug gets pulled out from under us and we get rock bottomed, if you will. And it's like, I don't understand. I was making progress. I had all this resolve to become a new version of myself. And it feels like every obstacle possible is coming in my way. And this has happened so many times in my own experience. And even to some friends who I was speaking to this week, we're experiencing the same thing specifically this month. And I want to give you guys a little bit of hope and a little perspective as to what is happening when you hit these rock bottom moments, especially when you're trying to make a change for yourself. You're trying to hit a new goal. You're trying to make a difference in your life. You're trying to improve yourself in some way. Why are you suddenly being hit with all of these obstacles? And what can you do to get yourself out of it? And so I'm going to share this from a Kabbalistic perspective because that's been so helpful for me in the last little bit. And I'm hoping it'll be helpful for you. So the first thing I want to share is I'm going to share sort of a little situation that happened for myself this last couple of months. Actually, my husband and I have been going through the ringer. And because we made this new statement of what we wanted to go after and how I viewed these principles myself. Now, full disclosure, it's very uncomfortable for me to be this vulnerable about our finances, but it is related to abundance. And I figured many of us have money struggles. And so I'm going to share this with you guys without giving it away too many of the specific details. But I will say that over the course of the summer, my husband and I had this new goal for ourselves. We really wanted to up our game, up our income, up our ability to make more money for less time, right? And how do we stop trading time for money? How do we find a way to have multiple income streams? And we started to go after those goals and we started to look for ways of creating streams of passive revenue and passive income. And we found a few ways, and some of them were actually very successful for us. And then it felt like the rug kept getting pulled out from under us over and over and over again, obstacle after obstacle after obstacle. We had, and so many things that made us need to spend the new money that we were making. We had a flood in our living room. The toilets from upstairs started to leak and they rained down into our living room, which was not only really gross, but also not a fun expense to get fixed. Then all of the AC in my husband's office broke, and then the AC in our house broke. Then the AC in both our cars broke, right? So there was just so many expenses that, one after the other after the other. And we kept kind of trying to ground down into, okay, but we made this new goal. We're going to keep going. And it's hard not to feel defeated when it feels like any little win you have, you're getting a setback after a setback after a setback. And many more things happened. Our dog got sick, and everybody knows a vet bill is never fun. And we just kept getting, it felt like getting smacked in the face by wave after wave after wave. Any of the new income that we had pulled in from these new revenue streams just went right back out because of all of the surprise, things that needed to be fixed in our home, in my husband's office. And so we were just getting really down on ourselves. We were getting really frustrated and going, what's the point of even trying? And so I want to kind of offer this Kabbalistic perspective, this different perspective. And so when we think of abundance, right, we can relate this to sort of anything we want in our life. It can be to love, it can be to anything that we're kind of wanting in our life, but anything that, the Creator wants to offer us, okay? And I'm going to do it through the perspective of abundance because that's what my story here is about. And I want you to think of, there's this term in Kabbalah that we refer to the Creator as, the Creator, God source, as Ein Sof, which means infinity, right? Or the thing with it literally translates to without end. And the light that comes from the Creator, right? So that infinite light that comes from the Creator, we refer to as Or Ein Sof, the light that comes from the no end, right? The light with no end, the infinite light. And there's this understanding in Kabbalah that you are a vessel for that light, a kli, a vessel for that light. And when you decide that you are wanting to do something new, you are wanting to be a receiver of more of that light, God is going to ask you to expand your vessel. How is it that you can make it so that vessel is strong enough to hold the new light that you are asking to be poured into your body, into your soul, into your being, into your world? And if it's got holes, right? Or if it has what we call in Kabbalah, there's something called klipot, right? And klipot are I guess we would call them sort of shells, right? Things that are blocking the light from coming into your vessel, right? And so what happens so it's almost like husks or shells surrounding your vessel, stopping the light from coming in, stopping the light from pouring in. And so if you have these shells covering your vessel, your ability to receive light, and the light cannot pour through, then you need to be shaken up, broken apart, shaken down, if you will, and forced to grow and change, to grow a stronger vessel, to grow and open that vessel so that it can receive more light. You can receive the blessings that you are asking for. You can receive the abundance, the light, the love, all of the things, right? And if you really look at life through this perspective, your rock bottom moments are asking you to step up, to clear out the cobwebs, to clear out the shadows. What are the things that are really stopping you from being able to hold this light in a specific way? Now, when I really grasped and understood this concept, I realized that there was something that my husband and I have been avoiding for a very long time. And I'm hoping that many of you can relate to this because we kind of had this mindset of like, if we could just create more money, then all of our problems will be solved. And that's actually the wrong mindset. And instead, we shifted our mindset from how do we just make more money come in to how do we become better vessels for the money we do want to come in? How do we hold it and be better curators and caretakers of the money that we have and the money that we're trying to call in? And when I switched to that mindset and I decided I'm going to show God, I'm going to show the Creator that we are better vessels for the thing that we're trying to call in. I am going to create myself into the container that can hold space for this light I'm asking to be poured in. It's going to come in easier. So that is when my husband and I sat down. And this is also where intuition plays us a role in here. Our next step came through intuitive downloads, right? What is my step, the next right step I need in order to become a better vessel for the thing I'm calling in, which in this case was more money, right? And this is something that in my body, I know that my husband and I needed to do we've known it forever. We've been burying our heads in the sand forever. And usually that's the case. It's usually the thing that you have been avoiding that then circumstances come up, right? These rock bottom moments come up where you have no choice now but to do that thing that you have been avoiding. But what was that thing for us? That thing for us was creating a budget. I know that sounds so simple, but that's what it was. It was creating a budget. It was actually paying attention to where the finances were going in and out of our life. And I even told my husband, like, we don't have to necessarily change our spending habits at this moment. I just want us to have some awareness. We feel so out of control that we think we need more money to solve all our problems. Maybe we don't even need more money. Maybe we're doing just fine, but we don't even know. And so we decided that we were going to meet every Sunday evening after the kids went to bed and have a money meeting and write down everything that we spent and everything that we saved and how do we have money to put aside and how can we pour money into our investments and really just become very good caretakers for every single dollar that comes in. Remembering that my husband and I are both entrepreneurs, we both work for ourselves. And so it's different every month. And so we need to be keeping track of these things. And it's something that we had always said, we were going to do later, right? We always said, we'll get to it. We'll get to it. We'll get to it. Tomorrow never came and we never got to it. And that's where sort of that intuitive download came in, right? Of like that thing that I know I've been avoiding, that thing I now have no choice because suddenly we've been hit with all of these unexpected expenses. Are we even going to be able to pay our mortgage this month? I have no idea because we haven't looked at the numbers. And so I really saw this rock bottom moment of, yes, it really sucks to have all of these, be hit with all of these expenses. But it was the exact wake-up call that both my husband and I needed to say, okay, we really are not managing our money well. We need to pay attention. And this was the slap in the face we needed because suddenly we're sitting in the pressure cooker. We had to figure out a way out of it. And so how are we being broken down and broken apart to become a better vessel for the light that is wanting to come in? Now, it seems that a logical thing to do is to then check on your budget, right? Create a budget and a spreadsheet and look at those things. And usually that's the case is when you hit a rock bottom moment, when it feels like everything's getting taken away from you or everything's being pulled out from under you. Usually I call a bottom moment something where everything's being taken away. So the way that you knew life to be at that moment, whether it's your career gets shifted or taken away, the relationship ends, right? That's sort of rock bottom moments, right? Your health goes away, right? It feels like something's getting taken away from you. It's because you are being called up to strengthen your vessel, your ability and your capacity for holding more light. You are being put in the pressure cooker. It's time to step up. And so instead of asking the question, how can this why me? Why is this happening to me? Why am I being punished? What did I do wrong? Maybe I should go back to my old ways. I forget trying this new goal, right? Instead saying, oh, God is trying to pour light into my life. God is trying to answer my prayers, right? I am trying to receive all of the things that I've been asking for. It's trying to come in, but there's something blocking the way. Something's blocking the way, and I am needing to be put through the ringer, need to be put through the training ground or the training protocol in order to be expanded enough and open enough to let that light come in. That klipot, that thing that's covering my container, needs to be broken away. And I need to get stronger and my vessel needs to get stronger. And so when I look at it from this perspective, there's really sort of this feeling of, oh, I'm being helped right now. The breakdown always comes before the breakthrough, okay? And then there's this one other step that comes after that. When we recognize that the breakdown is happening, right? We must lean into our next right steps, aligned action. We must lean into doing the things that we know we need to do, perhaps that we've been avoiding, in order to let the light pour in. And then there's also this feeling of this is where your guides will step in. Usually it's at your rock bottom moments that your intuition gets the clearest. Your spirit guides are literally there. Your spirit guides, your angels, your higher self is literally there, especially in these moments to nudge you along the right path. You are not alone in this moment of breakdown, right? This is the moment where you're probably going to call out and say, God, why me? And say, help me, God, help me. And this is the time where you have to be open to those next right steps, to the aligned action. And you cannot have fear or come from a place of fear in this moment. If my husband and I came from a place of fear when we felt like we had so many bills that we weren't even sure if we could pay our mortgage was it last month, 2 months ago, whatever it was. And we thought, okay, well, I better go and run and get another job, right? Maybe I should go back to teaching. I don't know. Or my husband went and said, I'm going to go and get a job that an extra night shift or something somewhere else just to make ends meet in some way because we were freaking out. That's not what we're being asked to do. We're asked to receive those little intuitive downloads, to get quiet, go inward, and hear what is number one, the thing that I've been avoiding doing that needs to be done. For us, it was taking a really good hard look at our finances and creating a spreadsheet. And then, is there something else that can be done, a small, tiny step, piece of aligned action? In Kabbalah, we call this hishtadlut, right? That even if it doesn't make sense, I'm being called to do it. And and see how that happens. And so for me, there were a few things that came through besides doing the spreadsheet. My guides told me very specifically, very loudly, they'd actually been telling me this for a very long time. And you guys know this. My guides were whacking me over the head with it. Jessica, lower your prices, make them more accessible so that more people can reach out to you. More people are trying to connect with you, but your services aren't available to them anymore. So I did. I lowered my prices. Then they said, Jessica, do it even better. Do a sale. Make it even more accessible. Make it even more accessible. Now, logically, that wouldn't make sense, right? From many of the entrepreneurial standpoints of people, right? They would say, hold your value, know your worth. And yes, did I have clients paying me at the top dollar that I had from last year? Absolutely. I had enough clients doing that. And does it make sense to be working for less money, right? More hours for less money? No, not from an entrepreneurial strategic standpoint. So it didn't always make sense. But if I was releasing control and trusting that my guides had my back and that they were telling me to do this because they were trying to pour that light into my vessel and I needed to be a little bit more open to those steps, then I had to release control and step into it, even if the intuitive download didn't make sense. And that's where the next step comes through. I take the action, and then I need to have something called bitachon, which loosely translates to radical trust, if you will. Trust that I'm doing my part because I received an intuitive download, that even if it didn't make sense, I'm going to take action on it anyway, and trust that the outcome is in the hands of the Creator, is in the hands of God. And I can do these tiny little action steps, but I have to know that I know that I know that God is always conspiring with me, not against me. And that I have to take these little baby steps that I'm being told to do. It doesn't require a whole lot of effort to say, hey, I'm having a sale, right? Or to drop my prices by a little bit. It doesn't take a whole lot of effort to do a budget. But doing those little tiny baby steps led to the best month I've had all year. And not only were the extra expenses covered, but we were able to put more money aside. And there were little steps for my husband too. They, little intuitive downloads. We actually spent one evening after we put the kids to bed, a Saturday evening, we put the kids to bed and we channeled my husband's guides and said, okay, we're feeling like we're really in a rock bottom moment. What does my husband need to do in his business? They told him a couple things. You need to adjust your Google ads. My husband's a chiropractor, so he uses Google ads to help attract new patients. So he called his friend and adjusted his Google ads, right? They said he needed to that he needed to target more of the old folks' homes in the neighborhood. There's a lot of retirement communities nearby. He needed to give them a phone call. Okay, gave him a call. And again, very simple, little, easy, small effort things that had big, big results because we had absolute trust that even though they seemed so silly to us, they didn't really make a lot of sense. It made it, we're trusting that we're being guided and led in the right direction, that the outcome is always because God, Hashem, the creator, is reshaping your vessel. And for us, it was definitely a lesson in pull your head out of the sand, pay attention. You need to be a good curator or caretaker of the money you already have. And if you want more money to come in, you have to prove, feel safe in being able to manage that money. And so I think that the spreadsheet was probably the most, even though we didn't change our spending, we just took a month to analyze, right? Just showing ourselves that we feel more in control, right? And feeling a little bit more calm in that respect. And then taking those tiny little aligned actions, connecting with my spirit guides, connecting with my husband's spirit guides, and asking, what are those tiny little things that we needed to do? And they really did feel tiny, right? Have a sale, make a phone call. My husband had to make a phone call, right? One phone call to an old folks home and one phone call to a friend to help him with Google ads, right? Like nothing radical, nothing radical. And what happened? I had a great month and he had a great month. Expenses covered, money put aside, everything's feeling so much better than it was before. And so this is what's really, really beautiful is now I know, and I've seen this in my life many times before, but whenever we get rock bottomed, we always forget that when I am being rock bottomed, it's actually the creator, the universe, answering your prayer. You are asking for something new. You are asking for the up level. You're asking for the next big thing in your life, whether it be money, whether it be a fulfilling career, whether it be a relationship, whatever it is you're asking. And Hashem has Or Ein Sof, like this infinite light that it can pour into you. There is no end to the amount of light that can be poured in. So the moment you ask for it, it's wanting to come through. It's gonna come through, right? God can pour that into you. The question is, do you have a container strong enough to hold it, to receive it? How do you become the receiver for that light? And if you are getting rock bottomed, if you are feel like you are being tested, if it feels like suddenly everything is being taken away from you, it means that you are being asked to reshape your vessel. Your vessel is not able to hold. For us, we were not in a good position to be holding more money because we were barely managing the money we had. When we took a serious look at managing the money we did have without even changing our spending, right? But we paid attention to it. We decided we were going to be good caretakers of it, right? That is saying I am creating a safe vessel for this money to come in. Okay? So every time you find yourself in a rock bottom moment, say, this is the creator working for me. This is the creator working for me. This is the creator asking me to step up, asking me to become a better vessel for the light that's trying to be poured in. Okay? So then the next question is, the next step, I guess, once you hit this rock bottom, right, is to step 2, lean into your intuition. Where is the place that I know I've been avoiding in terms of stepping into this new version of myself, right? What is it? Where have I had my head in the sand? What am I not admitting to myself? What is the thing that's underneath the surface that I know I've been avoiding doing, right? For us, it was looking at our finances, but maybe it was that if it's a relationship you're calling in, maybe it's, I really need to look at the way I talk to myself, right? I'm having this really negative self-talk and I really need to fix that. Or maybe it's a subconscious reprogramming. Maybe I have this story that money's not safe or love's not safe or whatever it is. So really kind of leaning into what's the thing that I know I need to do, but I've been avoiding. And you'll know it in your body. You know what that thing is. And chances are you're in this rock bottom situation. You're going to have to face it and you're going to have to do it anyway. So let's lean into it. We now have, you've been put in a situation where you now have no choice but to face it and do the thing. So do the thing. And then step 3 is what we would call hishtadlut. So taking divine or aligned action, right? And intuition plays into this as well, right? You can connect with your guides, do an automatic writing session. What is my next right aligned baby step in action? What is that little step that I need to take? And even if the step doesn't make logical sense, but I feeling called to do it, then do it. Do it anyway. And see, and then that's where step 4 comes in, that even if the step doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? It seems too small. It seems too insignificant. It seems like I should be going out and getting a job. Don't come from fear. Come from a place of my next right aligned action that my intuition, my gut, my spirit guides, my angels are telling me to do. And then you need to have bitachon, absolute radical trust. I know that I know that I know that the universe, Hashem, God is working for me, conspiring with me. And I don't have to cling on to fear. There is not more that I need to do. I'm going to do that little next right step that I was asked to do, the phone call, the sale, the spreadsheet, whatever it is. I did that little thing, and then I take my hands off the reins. Then I've created the vessel, and now I can trust that the money or the thing I'm calling in is going to pour in because the creator is conspiring with me and always wanting to pour love, light, and abundance into my life. And this allows, the abundance to fill your vessel when you stop clinging to fear because you open into trust. And you have to get to this place of, I know that I know that I know that Hashem or the universe, God, is always trying to provide for me. I did my little next right step because my guides told me to. I got that intuitive download. And now I take my hands off the reins and trust that the rest is in God's hands. And if you follow those steps, when you're in a rock bottom, you're going to find yourself on the other side of it having the best breakthrough, having the thing that you called in. I'm going to give you guys one more example of this because I had a much bigger example of this happen in my life many, many years ago. And I always remind myself of how this happened for me and my husband, actually, because anytime I find myself in a rock bottom that's even slightly smaller than that, when I go, that one happened in the same way, I know it's going to happen in the same way again. So this has to do with the house that I got. Many of you have probably heard there. I had an episode where I explained all of the crazy miracles and magical synchronicities that lined up for my husband and I to purchase our first home, the one that we're currently living in. But there is a piece that I didn't actually share. And that is that prior to receiving our home, when my husband and I decided we really wanted to have our own home, we had our first baby. It was time for us to find a place that we were going to live. Our current living situation got pulled out from underneath us. We very suddenly and unexpectedly had no place to live. And we had a 6-month-old baby and no money. Okay. My husband had just graduated from chiropractic college. I was new. I had a brand new baby. I wasn't working in that moment. And we felt like we were in the most hopeless situation. Nobody wanted to rent to us because we both worked for ourselves, and to get a mortgage, it felt like most of the lenders wanted somebody who had a biweekly paycheck, consistent biweekly paycheck, and we both work for ourselves. We were not ideal candidates. On top of that, nobody wanted to rent to us because our dog was so massive. People didn't want to rent to people who had a big dog. We felt so hopeless. We felt like we were literally asking for our own home. And then our current living situation got pulled out from under us. Suddenly we had no place to live. Okay. So literally this is the exact energy flow, right? We asked for this thing and then suddenly our current living situation disappears. And it took a lot of bitachon, a lot of faith and trust that the creator was providing for us, that was going to provide for us. And I needed to take the next right steps to make that happen. And I remember having to, and we stayed at my mother-in-law's for a short period of time while we were looking for a house, but we had to figure out a way to come up with the money to get a down payment for a house and to even find a mortgage and people that would lend to us. And there were so many things. And I remember just having this complete faith that on the other side of this rock bottom is our home that we get to purchase. And it felt so hopeless at the time. And I just had to keep every day, I would connect to my guides, tell me what my next right step is. What do I do here? Who do I call? And they gave me the name of this real estate agent who happened to be a friend of ours, who happened to have who was our age and had just purchased a house in our crazy market. And I called him and said, just tell me how to do it. And he said, I can help you. And then he showed us a very crazy roundabout way to get a mortgage that we never would have thought of, right? And then when we were looking for the houses and we finally found the one we liked, we had 18 other bidders. And, we were getting outbid by so much, like hundreds of thousands of dollars. And my guides were like, write a letter with a picture of your dog and the baby. And it was the picture of our dog that got us the house, even though there were four other bidders who offered way more money than we did. And needless to say, I didn't we didn't suddenly have more money. We didn't suddenly have more resources or more things, but all I knew was I had this complete faith that our house being taken out from away from our living scenario being taken away from us meant that we were about to get our bigger blessing. The breakthrough was coming after the breakdown. And I used intuition, I connected with my guides, and they gave me very specific, very small little things we needed to do to make that happen. I was shown very roundabout ways to get a mortgage for entrepreneurs. Found some roundabout ways to get funding that in a way that was going to allow us to have this home. And then taking those little action steps and having trust that it was coming through. And so when it feels like when you make a statement that you're calling in a new thing, if it feels like suddenly the very thing you asked for is getting pulled away from you, taken away from you, that's because your vessel is being broken down in order to be reshaped. Have complete bitachon, have complete trust that you are being provided for, that light is trying to pour in. And then ask yourself, what do I need to build up? What training do I need to do? How am I supposed to be flexing my muscles or building my muscles and working it out in the gym to strengthen myself to receive this thing that I know that I know that I know is coming on the other side of this? I am being thrown into the pressure cooker for a reason. I was not in a place to hold and to be the receiver, the capacity, or to hold this new thing I'm calling in. How am I being asked to shift and change and reshape my ability to hold this thing? Where do I need to, what parts of myself do I need to strengthen in order to receive this light that's pouring towards me? And then take those tiny action steps that are going to lead me in that direction and trust that it's going to come through. And every time I've been rock bottomed, I know it's because of big breakthroughs on the other side of it. And this little money thing was exactly the same thing that happened in the same order. So I see the pattern so clearly. And I'm hoping that can be really helpful for you guys. So yeah, I just wanted to share with you guys this little piece of, Kabbalah that I have been learning and experiencing firsthand. And I hope that it's helpful for you guys. And I promise that I am going to offer some more intuitive development stuff coming up. I have some more guests coming through. This episode is not going to have an intuitive development exercise, but I promise in the next one there will be. I'm just pressed for time. Babysitter out of town. Husband needs to go to work, but I didn't want to leave you guys hanging without at least something. For those of you that fasted on or that are having Yom Kippur, sending you a peaceful, easy fast and a beautiful new year. And otherwise, I will catch you guys in the next episode. Bye, you guys.